Hello, Dr. Merrill. It's good to see you again. Yes, my apologies for canceling last week's appointment with you. I had a good reason. Oh, yes, just one quick question, Dr. Merrill. What year is it? I know I ask during every session, but it's important. 1993. Yes. Yes, I thought so. Thank you. Well, you see, Dr. Merrill, that's the thing. You're my psychiatrist, but trust me, you don't want me to make eye contact with you longer than a second. That's why I usually bring one of my fountain pens with me and play with it during our sessions. Trust me, it's for the best. Well, yes, Dr. Merrill, I know you don't believe me, but it's the reason why I canceled last week's session. Yes, it happened again. As I said, I know you don't believe me, but it did. Let me explain. You know that little corner grocery store across the street from this clinic? Yes. It's a small grocery store, not very well stocked, but surprisingly, their fruits and vegetables are always fresh. A lot fresher than the grocery store in my neighborhood. So usually, after one of our sessions, I'll go across the street and stock up on fresh fruits and vegetables. I like having those in my apartment. Well, I've been seeing you for about 2 years now, and almost every time I go across the street, there's this one elderly woman in particular I see almost all the time. Yes, yes, she's white. Her hair is, well, ironically, her hair is mostly gray instead of white. Not very attractive. Well, both her hair and the woman, if I'm being honest. Yeah, very elderly. She always walks in alone. She usually does her shopping very quietly. And then she leaves. Well, during our last session, 2 weeks ago, I went across the street, and I know it's a bad habit. I need to start carrying cash. I usually don't. I've got my credit card on me, and if that's not good enough, I've got my debit card as well, just in case. So, I'm across the street, and I finish up my shopping, and I'm there. And the elderly woman is behind me. There's usually long lines at the grocery store, but everyone is polite. They wait their turn. So I hand the Korean guy my credit card. It doesn't go through. And all of a sudden, from behind me, I hear, "Oh, come on, this is ridiculous," in a really annoyed and mean-spirited tone. I turn around, I look at her, and she looks away. I guess I gave her a dirty look. Normally, I'm very respectful towards the elderly, but I just can't stand obnoxious people. I really can't. And it didn't occur to me until afterwards that I had made eye contact with her longer than 1 second. I didn't think much of it. That was my mistake. I admit that. Now, I also know that you don't believe me. I wish you would, Doctor, but I know you don't believe me. I think the only reason why you keep me around is because I'm a fascinating and interesting case compared to all your others. I mean, you're probably used to dealing with sociopaths, narcissistic personalities. After a while, something like that probably gets boring for a professional psychiatrist like you. Well, no, I don't think ill of you, but I do think you look forward to our visit, so once again, I'm sorry that I canceled last week. But anyway, that night, I went to bed, and I've told you how this works. I can't tell the difference when it happens versus just a common, ordinary dream until after I wake up. And it happened again. All of a sudden, 1922, there was a calendar on the wall. That's how I could tell. And I was inside this beautiful, opulent mansion in New York. Yes. I mean, it's weird. I never seem to travel outside of the city. Maybe I have, I don't remember. Well, obviously, I don't mean in real life. But yes, it was 1922. New York City, opulent mansion. Think The Great Gatsby. And there I am, dressed like a stylish gentleman. And I see her standing by the window. And she is gorgeous. It took me a moment to realize, oh, that's the elderly woman with the nasty comment. But obviously, being 1922, she was significantly younger, significantly better looking, with a significantly better personality. I guess this was before the weight of the world crushed her hopes and dreams and turned her into a bitter, angry old woman, or maybe a bitter, middle-aged woman. I'd like to think she didn't become a bitter, young woman shortly after our encounter. I like to think that, but I can't be sure. Anyway, I could tell she was a little intoxicated, and I could tell that she was really into me. So I told her, hey, let's go upstairs. Let's find a place where we can be a little bit more private. Well, she agreed. Found a bedroom upstairs, very comfortable bed. And I need to point this out to you, Doctor. In real life, if I met a gorgeous young woman who was into me, but she was drunk or high, yeah, I'd just leave it alone because obviously they can't give consent. But when you're in a dream and you believe that you're definitely in a dream, it's a different story. It's like, well, this is a representation of a human being I encountered in life, only much younger, much better looking, and in the mood. So why not? What harm is there? She's not real. Just a creation of my imagination. So we went at it, and it was wonderful. And like I said, it's only after I wake up do I realize whether or not it really was a dream. And most of the time, that's all it is. A very graphic, vivid dream. This was not one of those times. It happened again. I know you don't believe me, but it did. I actually time traveled to 1922. I was actually at that party, and we actually went at it. That's the reason why I canceled last week's appointment. Because you see, Doctor, I spent the last several days after I woke up from that time travel experience going to the grocery store across the street and trying to see if she was there. I don't know why I did that. It's not like I was trying to strike up a conversation with her. It's not like I wanted to tell her the truth. Like, hey, remember that night in 1922 when you were drunk and some handsome guy took advantage of you? Yeah. Honestly, I was just curious. That night probably meant nothing. But I was just genuinely curious. Did I change things for the better, for the worse? And I became concerned because, as I said, I was there several days, same time that I'm usually there after one of our sessions, and I didn't see her. I was about to give up until 2 days ago when I noticed her walk in. Only thing is, this time, she wasn't alone. She appeared to be the same bitter, angry, elderly woman that she always was, ever since I started coming here and across the street. But there was a very large, almost middle-aged man with her. Definitely not her husband. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring. She wasn't wearing a wedding ring. And I took a closer look. Doctor, The middle-aged man who was with her, or close to middle age, he had a lot of my features. You know, he had the same extremely dark brown eyes that I do, that from a distance actually look black. He had the same skin tone, many of the same facial characteristics. I mean, obviously, he didn't look exactly like me, but there were enough features that I could tell. Again, I know you don't believe me, Doctor, but it's true. I can't control this power. I have to constantly have something in my hands that I'm playing with. I have to constantly, consciously avoid making eye contact for longer than a second, or later on that night, I end up dreaming about the person at a different time in their life. And, well, most of the time it's just a dream, all harmless. Occasionally, it's the real thing. I know you don't believe me. I wish you would. I wish you would go with me across the street. Anyway, like I said, this was 2 days ago. I didn't need to, but I went back the next day, and there she was again, with the same individual. I mean, it's clear that he's her son. It's also clear that I'm his father. Back in 1922, I guess I knocked her up, and I do feel guilty. She must have had a hard life, and so did he. Please, don't do that. Don't tell me I shouldn't feel guilty. I had no clue that I fathered this young man, and if you saw him, you would see the truth. I wish you would go with me across the street and see for yourself. Hopefully they'll be there, but I know you won't because you don't believe me, Doctor. I really wish you would. The odd thing is, she was a miserable excuse for a human being. Before I knocked her up, as an elderly woman, and yes, that came out wrong. You know what I mean. But in the other timeline, she didn't have a son. Now she does. And in both cases, she's just a horribly miserable excuse for a human being. I guess some people's true nature just comes to the surface no matter what. Well, at least for her sake, now she's a miserable excuse for a human being who has a son to help her around the house and, well, at least with the grocery shopping. Yeah. I really wish you'd believe me.